In a quiet, rain-kissed town nestled on the edge of the Cotswolds, where the hedgerows hold secrets and the tea always brews strong, lived a young woman named Elena Wren. She was not famous, nor did she care to be. Her world was gentle, made of warm oils, soft bristles, and blank canvases. A painter by trade and a dreamer by default, Elena saw things differently. While others rushed to live, she paused to feel. Every sunrise was a palette, every stranger a story. Her days were quiet, a rhythm of colors and silence, but her nights, oh, her nights were noisy with the letters she wrote and never sent. For years, Elena poured her truth into paper instead of people. She would write, sometimes pages, sometimes a single line, and then fold the page away, stack it in an old wooden box beneath her bed, and leave the words unsaid. Words like "I miss you," or "What if I fail," or "Please stay." Vulnerability, to her, was something for the canvas, not the world. She loved deeply but from afar, admired life like art, with awe, but behind the glass. Then came Thomas Hale. He arrived in the kind of moment you forget until you remember it changed everything. Elena had been sketching at the train station, capturing the curve of an old man's spine as he fed birds beneath a flickering lamp. Thomas, with a battered book in hand and a scarf too long for his coat, sat beside her. They exchanged no words, just glances, the kind that speak without sound. He missed his train. She missed hers too. Twice. And neither of them minded. Thomas was unlike anyone she had known. He didn't demand space. He simply made room. A historian with ink-stained fingers and eyes that had read more than most would in a lifetime, he spoke with depth and listened with softness. While Elena lived in quiet color, Thomas lived in curious wonder. He asked questions no one ever had, not about her art, but about her. And more importantly, he waited for the answers. In the weeks that followed, they became something more than friends, though neither said it aloud. Their connection unfolded like slow-burning poetry. Long walks past bookshops, shared sips of coffee gone cold, and late-night phone calls about forgotten childhoods and impossible futures. He would read her poetry from memory, and she would sketch him when he wasn't looking. But while Thomas gave love freely, Elena held it like wet paint, too afraid it might smudge, too scared it might stain. Still, he stayed. Thomas was patient in the way that dreamers need someone to be. He never pressed. He simply made her feel seen, truly seen. Not for her art or her mystery, but for the way her lip curled when she was unsure, or how she hummed while brewing tea. He noticed the things she thought were unremarkable. And that, perhaps, was the most remarkable thing of all. But even patience has a shelf life. Elena, bound by invisible threads of fear, could not yet say what her heart screamed. She loved him, of course she did, but she didn't know how to show it. She'd spent so long hiding her feelings in folded letters that the idea of speaking them aloud felt dangerous. One particularly gray Tuesday, the sky wept softly, and so did she, though only on the inside. Elena sat at her desk, quill in hand, and wrote the letter that had lived in her chest for months. Thomas, if you're reading this, it means I've finally done something brave. I love you. Not in passing, not in poetry, but in the quietest corners of my soul. I love you in the pauses, in the things I can't say, in the spaces where I fear being known. But I don't know how to be loved. Not fully. Not yet. I need time. I hope that when I find my way, if I do, you're still somewhere not too far. She folded the letter, sealed it, but couldn't post it. It sat on her desk, silent, patient, like Thomas had been. The next morning, she awoke to find his note instead. Elena, I waited. But loving someone shouldn't feel like standing in a queue, not knowing if the shop will ever open. I hope you find what you're searching for. I'll be in Paris for the exhibition. Yours, always, Thomas. He was gone. Just like that. No anger, no storm, just a quiet departure, like the end of a page turned too soon. The house felt empty. Her studio echoed. Even her paints felt dull. She tried to carry on, filling sketchbooks, taking commissions, but something essential had left with him. The days turned to weeks, the weeks into months. Summer spilled into autumn, and the leaves began their golden descent. Elena painted obsessively, but none of her pieces felt honest. Her colors were vibrant, but her soul dimmed. And yet, she couldn't bring herself to reach out, not because she didn't care, but because she didn't know how to begin again. Until one November morning. She had been cleaning her studio when the letter resurfaced. That old, sealed envelope, now yellowing at the corners like an aging memory. Her hands trembled as she held it. Saturday. She read. And she cried, not because the words hurt, but because they were still true. This time, she didn't fold it back into hiding. She packed a small suitcase, the letter, and a single sketchbook. With heart pounding and hands cold, she boarded a train to Paris. The city was louder than she remembered. Brighter. She wandered through cobbled streets and unfamiliar cafes, asking directions in broken French, following gallery flyers like breadcrumbs. Eventually, she found it, a modest gallery tucked between a florist and a record shop. On the glass, in white paint, were the words, Thomas Hale, Portraits of Hope. Inside, she stepped slowly, each breath heavy with what might be. The walls were lined with faces, strangers captured in moments of quiet strength and loud emotion. But one painting stopped her in her tracks. It was her. Not the version she showed the world, but her in all her fractured beauty. She was mid-thought, half-lit by imagined sunlight, eyes full of unspoken stories. It was raw. It was real. It was love on canvas. She turned, and there he was. Thomas stood near the back, older by months but still the same. Their eyes met across the room, and something ancient passed between them, recognition, forgiveness, hope. She didn't speak. Not at first. Instead, she walked toward him and held out the letter. He took it silently. Read each line. His expression didn't change, but his chest rose slowly, then fell, like someone breathing again after holding it in too long. You never sent it, he said softly. No, she whispered. I was afraid. And now? I still am, she admitted. But I'd rather be afraid with you than fearless without you. Thomas didn't reply. He took her hand and pressed it to his chest. "Feel that," he said. "It still beats for you." And in that moment, the world fell quiet again. The sounds of Paris faded. The ache between them dissolved. They stood, heart to heart, no longer waiting. They didn't speak of the time lost. Some silences are best left undisturbed. Instead, they walked through the gallery together. Two artists, two lovers, two souls who had finally found the courage to begin. They say love arrives when you stop chasing it. But sometimes it's been waiting all along, hiding in a drawer, sealed in a letter, breathing patiently through the cracks of fear. Elena and Thomas didn't fall in love that day. They had already fallen. That day, they simply chose not to fall alone anymore. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more heartfelt tales right here on our channel. Your support helps us tell more stories that speak to the soul.